Hey everyone, welcome back to DR Sports and Talking Tactics with me, James, and Matisse. What are you rubbing your hands?
I don't know.
You acted like you were excited.
It's a bit chilly in here. The Akon went on, and then now you're reminding me. Yeah, we're going to start with the first game that we got absolutely pelted at the Amex. So
yeah, look, there's no better place to start.
Yeah.
Listen, as presenters, talking tactics.
Yeah.
Got to talk about how Brighton dismantled Chelsea the way they did. It's going to be a painful one for you.
Yeah.
For what you do, because obviously you're the Chelsea fan, we've got to let you run it. I want to just go over a little breakdown I sort of got from the game.
Yeah. How did you? Where are you finding this footage, James? I don't understand. What is going on here? The producer, I am going to have words after this show.
Do you know what? I love that you know exactly where it's
come from. What is going on?
That's what you call a breakdown.
Is this the surprise versus the surprise after last week? Okay,
this
cool.
Is it. Production, they have little tricks and...
Look at the composure. Look at... I need to go and get my pen now. Twats.
And also, Chelsea Arsenal on the weekend, I think they're trying to create this
rivalry between us.
This kind of...
It's been all friendly up until this point, and then we got a big game on Sunday.
We had the suits, this Sunday's going to be tense. But look, sorry about that. We had to get a little something in there. Wow. But, okay, you're at the very start of a process. It's early on. I don't think anyone's going to... I don't get the same... No, I do get the same pleasure out of Chelsea losing, but it's not like there's more context. When it was Tuchel doing badly, it's like, okay, hold on, you guys are meant to be challenging for titles, all that. Now we understand that Potter's trying to implement very new things, especially on the tactical front. And we enjoy talking about what he's going to do on this show because he's so interesting. Yeah. But did he get this one wrong?
He did, unfortunately. We almost saw the end goal with Brighton and the starting point with Chelsea, didn't we?
Yeah.
That's the way I kind of managed to talk about it in my head to get me through what was a really difficult watch. It was absolutely an obliteration at the start of the game. I mean, first of all, when I looked at the lineup, I thought, this is
I'm
really
going to give
bold.
you this.
Really
Just take it away.
Take it away. I mean, it was bold, right?
Yeah.
You can see Pulisic there, and you can see Sterling, and you think to yourself, that's really bold. You're going with two wingers in the wing-back spots who can't defend, and you're praying that you're going to be able to push back the Trossards and the Marches and all these guys, and you're praying that you're going to be able to get them on the back foot and maybe put Brighton into a bit of a shell. It didn't work because Brighton's counter-press was ridiculous. It was strong from minute one. And then on top of that, Thiago Silva, who has his clanger once or twice a season. It happened with West Brom. Now it's Brighton. They wear stripes. So
the blue and white.
So something in it. But he was awful in the first 5 minutes. He gave the ball away. He undercooked a pass, and he looked like he was having a bad day. And that kind of spread throughout the rest of the team. He had to clear the ball off the line twice inside the first 5 minutes. And we conceded with Trossard, who was really composed. I thought it was one of the best goals of the weekend. It wasn't a long scream or anything, but the composure to just get round the bodies in front of him, the dribbling, and then just to tuck it past Cucurella. So Chelsea are 1-0 down within 6 minutes, and they've conceded 3 shots and cleared the ball off the line twice. So they're already in a serious panic station mode. But when you look at Brighton, they were ridiculously good because March on this right-hand side was just destroying Cucurella over there. He wasn't getting the most help from Sterling. Potter said after the match that Sterling and Pulisic's jobs weren't to track back, which we saw in the game. It really wasn't.
So what was it meant to look like? What's the shape when you've got the ball? What's he hoping it's going to look like? I imagine Sterling and Pulisic hugging the touchlines massively. Yeah. But show us what he envisaged a Chelsea in possession looking like for a lot of that game.
I talk about this box a lot on this show, and I love it because when we saw Tottenham go to the Amex, they won 1-0 and they played a 3-5-2 and they crowded the midfield. Yeah. And that's what you got to do against Brighton because they do have this box situation that always appears. Yeah. And they took it in turns. Trossard kind of went a bit deeper at times. He stretched the play.
I took that 11 from Google, so you never really
Pascal
know
Gross as well, I think, might be areas. Look,
they had him at right back. Listen, I'm blaming Google.
Yeah. I was looking for Pascal Gross. I was like, where's James put him? Has he lost him or something?
You find him at right back.
Let's just look at it like that for a second because Lallana is very good on the ball. Yeah. It's always going to be some sort of. It didn't look exactly like this, but just for playing sake, we'll say they're always going to create that 4 in there. Caicedo and McAllister were really, really good. McAllister was dropping into the 6.
Yeah.
And Caicedo was just kind of hovering in the second phase, just ready to take the ball from McAllister. But his build-up play, he wasn't pressured. And I'm thinking it's an intensity thing, because when you look at Gallagher and Mason Mount, you think to yourself, yes, this midfield isn't balanced. Yes, you don't have that DM here. You don't have that DM that really occupies that space. I've spoken about it a lot of times. Chelsea needed a DM. He didn't play Jorginho. But he didn't play Jorginho because he wanted the mobility. And Loftus-Cheek has been a little bit more restricted and restrained this season.
Yeah.
But the fact that Chelsea got bossed around in this area, I couldn't believe it. Yeah. Honestly, bro. Like, Caicedo was making these forward passes at will. That's where one of the goals come from. It comes between just passing it in that area between the wing back and the right side centre back. But they just dominated the midfield. Pascal Gross was able to drop into the 10 position and pick up the ball. Caicedo was making his runs. They just couldn't keep up. So when Potter did say we couldn't match them from an intensity standpoint, I know managers always say that to kind of get themselves out of jail, don't want to criticise the team, etc. Nobody played well for Chelsea. Every single player was poor. But the intensity in that midfield was quite shocking, to be honest. And maybe it's because they played midweek against Salzburg. I don't know, the travelling. Obviously, Brighton had a full week. Tactically, I'd say Potter is responsible for this. I'm responsible for this. But in the midfield, I would say I'm a little bit surprised Chelsea couldn't compete, because they did have the numbers.
Yeah, there are a few times, and I saw it in your first game under Potter. Was it Salzburg at home? Where he played this kind of 3 with the wide players being super high. I think it was Sterling and Reece James in that game. And in transition, you're constantly being caught out. And it's just like, I understand the idea in possession. If you're dominating, you know, why not a 3-3-4? Why not more attackers? Because ultimately, a lot of teams will filter into that kind of a system anyway. Arsenal basically attacking a 2-3-5. So I understand, but I think from the start, you know, it's like you've got to have the base formation has to be how you look defensively, and then it kind of evolves as you move up the pitch. It feels like he's trying to start his formation, his 11 with, you know, almost like we kick off there on the edge of their box. It's like, you know.
Do you know what it is? Like, Ten Hag came in, got the clean sheets, got the defence foundation. Potter comes in, gets the clean sheets, gets the foundation. He got that now. Now it's almost like, okay, next. And Chelsea weren't ready, because they don't have a Trossard who defensively can cope and physically can cope, march. These two, Sterling and Pulisic, they just weren't able to do that wing-back job. So maybe it's a personnel thing. I would never say that Pulisic is a wing-back. I would never say that Sterling's a wing-back. You know, but they have played in this position in the Champions League, especially Sterling. He's played the 2 Salzburg games in that role. Same with Pulisic in one of the matches, the other one, Reece James, that you're talking about. And they were able to do it. But Salzburg and Brighton, 2 different things, you know. And we saw with the goal, with the counter-press, I mean, you know, they just catch Chelsea on their heels. Poor play out the back, and 2 of the goals are own goals, and the 4th one is whatever. So, yeah, the only bit of positive play from Chelsea was Gallagher again. I think this is a very underrated part of his game on the right side, getting the ball in the box. We saw it with Eriksen, Man United. We'll get to it later as well. Some really good crossing, and I feel like this is very much influenced by Kevin De Bruyne. Eriksen's done it now. Gallagher's been doing it the last couple of games. Midfielders crossing the ball from this area. It all started with Kevin De Bruyne, and now it's kind of evolving.
You're right. That is absolutely textbook Kevin De Bruyne, but it's a lovely ball from Gallagher. You're going to be on AFTV doing box to box and previewing, so I don't want to kind of get into that territory. But very quickly, as it's a tactical thing, do you think he'll go with this for Arsenal?
He won't go with these 2 wing-backs again, I don't think, especially not against Arsenal. He
can't. What, Chilwell and Aspilicueta maybe?
See, the thing is with Potter is if he does go with 1 winger on one side and a full-back on the other, it allows him to push people across and make it a 4. If he had gone with Aspilicueta in this role, as defensive as it is, and it's not the most exciting thing to see, it allows him to push Aspilicueta back, and he can switch it maybe to a 4, and then he can play with it like that, and he can be flexible. But the reason why he was able, I mean, he would have had to have made another substitution, but he's been doing that a lot lately, hooking players off 30, 40 minutes. He kind of pushed himself into a situation where he could never change this, because he didn't have a fullback on the wing-back situation. It was just 2 wingers. So you could never say Sterling go play left-back. You could never say Pulisic go play right-back. So he just kind of pushed himself into a situation where he couldn't do much. He did move Loftus-Cheek over at some point, and it started to look a bit better. I think Jorginho came on and there were some changes. And again, but this is the 3rd, 4th game in quick succession where we're talking about Potter having to change things early on or at some point to get a hold of the game again. So we've got to start better.
Fair enough. I want to ask for that back because I feel naked without it. Thank you so much. Oh, I've missed you. But no, appreciate the breakdown, man. And listen, I'm very interested to see what he does for the Arsenal game, because again, Arsenal want to press, Arsenal want to get into Chelsea's faces.
Yep.
Is he going to? I agree with you. I think he'll tweak that wing back area, but ultimately have probably a similar approach to the game. All right, I'm going to put you out of your misery. No more Chelsea.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Liverpool though.
Yeah.
Liverpool's a funny one. They went to Leeds. Actually, before we go into the tactical pad, this was Liverpool's average positions map. And I can understand why Google in this case has given me a diamond formation because, okay, you've got your centre-backs, Gomez and Van Dijk, Trent and Robertson, we've seen that before.
Yep.
We've got Fabinho at the base with Elliott, Thiago and Nunez.
We know Elliott loves to pull out to the right.
Exactly. And then you've got Salah and Nunez, Firmino and then Salah and Nunez there. Now, the thing is, while I see why that can be a diamond, that also is very similar to just when they played a 4-3-3 and it was Mane, because he would always be making those darting runs. They'd be quite central anyway. Firmino would lead the line on the press and drop in to link up.
Yep.
So none of that's that strange.
Yep.
Even Henderson on the right of the midfield three, overlapping to cross in case Trent comes inside.
Yep.
None of that's completely strange from a Liverpool perspective. But do you feel that they're just having a little bit of an identity crisis when it comes to actually how they want to play, how they can get their best players into the team? Because that doesn't feel very Klopp, does it? It doesn't feel very Liverpool.
I think if I'm being honest with Liverpool, this is a lot closer to what I think they should be doing as to what they were doing a few weeks ago, where
fair enough.
Salah was really wide.
Yeah.
Nunez was the focal point, and then they had maybe Diaz or whoever it was on the left-hand side, Jota, and Salah was so wide that he had to be a playmaker. At least the positives I will say that he's learning from the last few weeks is he's getting Salah closer to the goal. He gets the goal to make it 1-1. Nunez, for me, is very up and down. Sometimes he's giving you a good performance. He's scoring goals that are difficult, and he's missing easy chances. He's still embedding himself into this team.
He gets into good positions.
He does.
But is he chaotic?
I feel like Liverpool used to be, in their best years of Klopp, they used to be very good at integrating players and bringing in players slowly and making sure that their key senior players are holding it down until those guys are ready. The Caters when they first signed, etc. But because Liverpool in the last window in particular, they lost Mane, they weren't able to integrate Nunez, and now Diaz is even more important than maybe he would usually be in terms of just being slow introduction. And it's really just about aging. Players are aging. For me, Firmino, Thiago, you're playing two 30-plus-year-olds in there. They got outrun again in the first half. Leeds are always going to have more energy about them, even before with Bielsa. And Van Dijk, all these guys, some of these guys are approaching their 30s, so it is a turning of the tides for Liverpool. But I just felt for me that defensively, Gomez giving that pass, we have to start there.
Let's have a little look at it. So, this is a very interesting one. I've tried to recreate it pretty badly, but that's all it is.
Yeah, that's all it is.
The easiest recreation I ever had. But what I want to say about this goal is, I feel a little bit sorry for Gomez.
Do you?
And here's why. He needs to look up.
He does.
And he gets it wrong.
Yeah.
So it is 99% his fault. But when I watch it back, it's kind of dealt with. He's there. You got Trent, you got Alisson. Van Dijk's in front of Rodrigo.
Never concede from that position.
Absolutely not. But what's hilarious is, it's like there's a 1% chance this goes wrong because it can only go in one area. Not quite close enough to Van Dijk, not quite close enough to Alisson. And that's exactly where he put it. And I know he should look, and I know it's a bad pass, but he's trying to play out the back. What he wants is this ball to go into Alisson, and then it comes out to Trent. They want to play. That's what they want to do. They want to manoeuvre their way out of that situation because Leeds have now followed them up the pitch. But he just... No, I've got it wrong. Is this going to work? Yeah. He just honestly found that one area.
So ironically, it's an insane assist.
It's a lovely cut across. Also very De Bruyne.
For me, it's like I've got to put that on Gomez because he doesn't look up. Alisson is standing there waiting to receive that pass.
For Alisson,
and the thing is with Van Dijk is he's just not expecting it, is he? He's caught on his heels as well. Maybe you could say Van Dijk, stay alert, stay awake, and if that does happen, you should be able to maybe cover that off. But it's just Liverpool's luck at the moment. It's not a great game for Van Dijk overall. It's not a great game for Gomez. It's not a great game for Trent. Once again, defensively, just conceding massive opportunities and almost assisting now goals.
You just said it's Liverpool's luck, and I've got to say, I know this is talking tactics, so you want a little bit more than just talking about luck, but I have to be honest. When it rains, it pours, doesn't it?
It must be a mental thing at this point.
Right? The list of injuries they've got. Okay, that team that went out there, still a good first 11, right? But the list of injuries they've got, okay, they're getting some of them back. And then it's like errors like that.
Yeah.
It's weird performances. Van Dijk looks nothing like him. And I'm going to say something, and Liverpool fans might disagree. So, and fair enough, I'll always listen to the fans of the club more. But this error by Gomez, it's so infuriating, but it's kind of forgivable in that, as in it's a mistake.
Yeah.
Like you clearly didn't mean it's a mistake. I actually think what Van Dijk does on the second Leeds goal is worse.
Yeah, I agree.
Because Somerville's got the ball.
Yeah.
He's able to like take a touch, bring it down, and then prod it past Alisson. And Van Dijk at no point engages. But it's a trend. We've seen it all season. Van Dijk isn't getting close to his man. And this whole joke about his aura is actually, it's true.
The only time he engaged was in the Haaland fight, against Manchester City. So that tells you, and it's the same with when we spoke about Trent walking. This is unfortunately, this is a choice. You don't have to defend like this. You can engage.
Yeah.
No one is stopping you from engaging in that moment where Leeds get that winner. I don't know if it's mental fatigue, it's towards the end of the match, but we've seen it, like you said, throughout the season. This is a pattern, in particular with Van Dijk and Trent, either ball watching or not engaging or just walking at times as well. And that isn't what a Klopp team is meant to represent. They were outrun in the first half. Again, not what a Klopp team is meant to represent. They were never really built on technical. They were built on P&P. Now, obviously, there are some technical players in there, some very, very talented players in there. But if you drop that distance covered, we saw it even Manchester United when they did it, and Ten Hag said, listen, that's not happening again. And then they outran the next game. So this is part of football now, It is a little bit back and forth. It is a bit more P&P in this league, and you have to match your opposition's intensity. We spoke about it just with the last game, and the same with this game, just not matching the intensity.
I want to give credit to Jesse Marsch here for a second. I think there's a little something Liverpool fans were hearing this. What do you mean Klopp can learn from Jesse Marsch? But just hear me out for a sec, right? This is the 11 that went out against Arsenal, played really, really well. I think bar maybe one play. I think Sinistera over Somerville. But otherwise, the same 11. And actually Somerville's, the little I know of him and Sinistera, I think very similar players. So Jesse Marsch is sticking to his guns. They played well at Palace, or at times played well at Palace and lost. They played very well against Arsenal.
Chelsea earlier in the season.
Yep, that's true. They played very well against Arsenal but lost. And then they've had a really bad run of games, 4-0 against Leicester. And you're in this situation where he could be tweaking and changing. We've seen Klopp go from a 4-2-4, 4-3-3. Was this more of a diamond? Nunez on the left, 1 minute he's up front. And I appreciate injuries are causing some of this, but I like what Jesse Marsch has done, which is just stick to his guns. Go, no, this is how I want to play. The results haven't really matched some of the performances. Well, sometimes they've been terrible. But he's gone and got a result, and credit to him. It's a very, very good win.
Rocker and Adams. I mean, they're really playing well this season, considering that it's been a lot of new signings. They lost some key players. Calvin Phillips has left. Rafinha's left, and I feel like Rafinha leaving has kind of stopped them focusing on just let's get the ball to him really out wide. He loved to occupy the touchline and then we'll go from there. Now it's a lot more compact, it's a lot more centralised. Everything they want to do is in kind of the width of the pitch here.
Yeah, I get what you mean,
So they're not so focused on that anymore. And I think they've been lucky with some of the critique for Jesse Marsch, because at the end of the day, it is still a Leeds team that you expect to be in and around that bottom 6-7, but they have got some big results this season. So there's definitely promise there.
Very interesting what Liverpool do now. I think once they get a few players back, the point I'm making on Jesse Marsch and him sticking to his guns is, Klopp, just go to what you know. And the players will play themselves back into form.
I don't know if he can. I mean, can he go to what he knows with the personnel, maybe people, getting older and whatnot? I think they just didn't refresh the team well enough in the summer, I think. I think, they desperately needed a couple midfielders and they didn't get that. So now they're struggling. And the midfield is everything, because it helps the defence concede less chances. That defence is facing a lot more threats this season. And they're not even contributing to goals and assists in midfield either now. So there's not much there.
All right, guys, if you've enjoyed, this is kind of the main breakdown, the Liverpool game and, of course, the Chelsea game. Let us know your thoughts on those games and what you'd like us to focus on for next week as well. Obviously, Chelsea-Arsenal will be one of them. Let's fly through kind of how we're feeling about just some other teams. We know Man United against West Ham. They got the win. At times, we can really see what Ten Hag is trying to do. And Lisandro Martinez a big part of that, because obviously he came in, big fee, at the back, questions about whether his height would impact how well he can do in that role.
Yeah.
Well, let me just get some numbers on him. Ranking amongst Premier League centre-backs, taking this from FBref, he ranks in the top 11% for dribblers contested, dribblers tackled, and blocks. What's he called? The butcher, they say. You know, Man United fans are rave about his performances, but those are the kind of things, when you're blocking shots and you're engaging with dribblers and attackers, that's someone who's up for the fight and wants to actually take it to them. And then on the ball as well, we knew he'd be quite good, former Ajax defender, touches in defensive penalty area, you've got to be secure in that sense, in the top 9% for centre-backs, dribbles completed, top 9%, and short pass completion in the top 15%. Some of his other FBref numbers, they're not outstanding, but these are kind of ones that I would have expected him to do well in, and he is, so credit to him.
Lazy analysis when people said he would be poor in this league because he's short. You know, at the end of the day, the tenacity, the aggressiveness, how much he plays on the front foot, he's very important for their possession and build up, and off the ball, he's the guy that closes down the space. He's the one that is the aggressive one, and usually it's Varane, not in this game, but Varane that sits off is more composed. So I think he's been doing really well, and we even saw it really against Brentford. I know they lost 4-0, but again, he contested quite well in that game, and Ivan Toney actually commented on that publicly and said it was a great battle. So for me, I think he's been Man United's best centre-back. He's come in, he's done brilliantly. Dalot's been a massive help on that right-hand side as well. I think he's been brilliant. And, you know, I think Man United, what's so interesting is their system is so strong now. It means that Ronaldo, he was okay. Wasn't nothing special. I think Rashford, you know, there was other guys that were more important in that match.
Great header from Rashford.
Sancho, we've been saying he's not really informed. But again, you can actually now have, in this Man United team, there's always one player maybe not quite with the rest of them now, and they're still able to get the job done. The one thing I will say about this game is I felt like West Ham were too negative in the first half. I was really disappointed. I know he went with Downs, Souček and Rice to be a little bit more solid. That's credit to Ten Hag, because he's built now this aura around Man United where they're actually feared. As well. Yeah, they're feared again, because Man United now, they played well at Stamford Bridge. They should have won that game. They played well in this match. And I feel like because of what he's created system-wise, it's now making people respect Man United and respect Old Trafford a lot more. So he went a bit defensive. I don't think they had a shot on target in the first half. And I was disappointed, because West Ham have got a lot of flair players, they've got a lot of attacking players. I would have liked to have seen if they could have caused Man United more problems. They did at the end of the game, and De Gea was ridiculous. So
look, Man United, I think we really touched on them last week when we talked about that Chelsea game. Was it last week or the week before?
Last week,
You know, that's where we really kind of broke down what Ten Hag is starting to do and the positions Fernandes is getting in. But this is a very good start. And they remind me a lot of Arsenal last season. Why do I say that? Because I'm not trying to do some condescending, we were there. It's not that, right? It's like, it was early in an Arteta project. He spent a lot of money that summer, and we saw the foundations. You can compare that to Ten Hag. Then you can also compare the fact that he didn't blow West Ham away. It wasn't 2-3-4-0. And actually West Ham maybe could have nicked something towards the end. But what you have is Man United for large periods of a game at the Bridge or here, showing what they can do, maybe retreating into their shell a bit because they don't have quite the confidence to see it through for the 90, or they don't capitalise on their dominance because they're still lacking that cutting edge. But then you've got kind of people on the outside going, you know, well, is there anything that special, whatever? I know what it's like when Arsenal are playing well, and yes, the results are kind of a couple 2-1s, 2-0s here and there, and people are going, what's the big deal? But you can see the foundations being put in place. So I can understand that. And the celebration police being out on you, you know, people saying Anthony shouldn't be spinning and over-celebrating at the Bridge. But all these things are important. It reminds me of the kind of criticism Arsenal got last season. So fair play to Man United fans. Listen, enjoy it. Amazing what 200 million can do. Joking. But look, I'm giving them legitimate credit here, and I do get it. I want to talk about Newcastle next. And I want to talk about two key Newcastle players, Callum Wilson and Kieran Trippier. And I thought I could illustrate kind of why I rate them so much in different ways. And I didn't used to rate Trippier quite this highly. Callum Wilson's last 4 Premier League goal tallies. He's got 6 goals and 2 assists in 9 games this season. 8 goals in 18 games last season. 12 goals and 5 assists in 26 in his debut season for Newcastle, and 8 goals and 3 assists in the 35. That was for Bournemouth, I think the year they got relegated. Now, that is not bad for a player who's got injury problems.
Yes.
He's fighting for a place at the World Cup.
For me, he's got to be going. I think, you know, you can't not have a player of his ability in the box. Anything that falls to him, he snatches it up. Do you know what I mean? Whether it's in the air, both feet, he's just a very accomplished finisher. I've seen some of his goals this season and they've been brilliant. Him and Ivan Toney have been those guys kind of just like in that kind of area for England where I feel like they should both be going at this point. I wouldn't be picking between them. You know, I think when you've got two strikers playing that well this season, I think you take both along with Kane and that sorts you out for the tournament. So I think he deserves to go. It's always been about staying fit. Everybody knows he's a great finisher. And I think it's always been about staying fit and he's managed to do that so far this season. Yeah. And for Newcastle, they're dark horses because, you know, they have the ability to go again in January and improve the team again, add maybe a couple of players here and there. Let's not forget they have injuries to Saint-Maximin. They don't have Alexander Isak as well. So they're missing players and they're still able to bop Aston Villa off the pitch. And this is Aston Villa team that obviously just had the new manager bounce the weekend before.
You're spot on. Can they got top four? We sort of asked that last week, or we looked at kind of where they're ranking with other teams. This is their form since Kieran Trippier signed. I thought Kieran Trippier, again, I caught the highlights, but some of the moments he had, overlapping and causing problems. We've seen the goals he scores from free kicks and just generally the experience he's got. I think since he's arrived on and off the pitch, I can imagine he's made a massive impact for Newcastle. But the numbers will tell you as well. 32 games since he signed. He was actually injured for quite a bit.
He was,
But 18 wins, 8 draws, 6 defeats, 62 points. That's a projected points over a 38-game season of 74, which would have beat Tottenham's tally and Arsenal's in 5th and got top 4. So, listen, I've been there as an Arsenal fan when I've done the whole, over a calendar year. But, you know, it's just putting respect on the consistency of
He's captain, isn't he?
So is he the captain? Okay.
I think he is, I think Lascelles was captain, but obviously he doesn't start as much. I think Trippier's been holding the armband since, so I don't know if he's been officially announced as that. But it's been very impressive from them. Throughout the team, just the spine of it is solid. Dan Burn's been a very astute signing as well.
Yeah. Let's talk about Arsenal. 5-0 win against Forest. There's not really too much to touch on because I'm really sorry, Forest fans. I don't mean to be rude, but they were terrible. They were really bad. They were kind of compact, but never pressed. But then they weren't deep enough to the point where Arsenal were still carving them open at will. First half, it settled a little bit. Saka came off, and actually our rhythm went down a little bit. Second half, it was so open, it was unbelievable. Especially that second goal where Xhaka just drives through their midfield like it's nothing and Partey finds him. But what I wanted to talk about from Arsenal's perspective, and something I need to give Arteta massive credit for, is quite how spread out the goals are. 30 goals in 12 Premier League games this season. There's a current goal rate. You know I love my projections. It's 2 graphics in a row I've done it. 95 goal projection. Now listen, that's the rate that Arsenal are firing at the moment. Is it going to maintain like that? Probably not. But the point, because actually teams go through lulls and they go through purple patches and lulls when it comes to scoring goals. We've seen it with Liverpool, even the great Liverpool sides over the last couple of years in City. But this is an Arsenal team that's sharing the goals. Odegaard with 4, Xhaka with 3, Saka with 4, Jesus with 5, Martinelli, lovely header as well. And that's a big part of what makes Arsenal quite dangerous at the moment, is the fact that you don't really know who the main threat is. Yeah,
it's true. I mean, Jesus, everybody's been speaking on, can he get more goals? But in this game again, he was much creating the chances again. So it's just maybe overdoing it, over-forcing it to try and finish and get that goal. But I've always said, regardless of what he's doing in front of the goal, and that's maybe why Man City didn't need to keep him in the end or play him up front, because he wasn't as ruthless as, say, an Erling Haaland. And that's where, for me, where the title will potentially be decided. But his influence in just dropping deep, I've seen his hold-up plays being brilliant. He's able to go out in the wide positions and take people on as well. So he's just an overall very, very good footballer. And he's just so difficult to deal with, because if you don't get him when he drops deep, he'll run in behind. If you don't get him in central, he'll go out wide. And it doesn't stop Arsenal from improving in this area and getting a striker, because you know that he can play out on the right flank. You know he can play in other areas. Saka's injury is huge. You know, Nelson came on and obviously got his goal contributions and did very well. Whether he can replicate that at Stamford Bridge next week, that would be a big test for him. But I have to speak about Partey, because he's critical. And this is an area for me where Arsenal can probably handle any, potentially you say Jesus as well, but outside of those two, any other position, if you get an injury, you could say Marquinhos on the right, maybe Vieira or Nelson. The defence, you know, you could shuffle it around a bit. You've got Vieira, but if he gets injured, Arsenal just look like a completely different team. I remember when we spoke about what happened at Old Trafford, and it's mainly because of him not being there. Because every single goal he scores is ridiculous as well, but he just adds the foundation. He gives the freedom to these guys, even Xhaka. I mean, look how many times he's been able to underlap and get goals this season. He just releases the rest of the players to go and play their stuff, and they know that they've got him behind him to hold it down. And it's similar to Casemiro at Manchester United. He's been given the platform to let the rest of them express himself as well. This position is critical in football at the moment, especially in the Premier League. When you look at the title winners, Fabinho when he was playing at his peak, huge.
Yeah, I completely agree. Arsenal looking good. That's 10 wins, 1 draw, 1 defeat. I've never known a start like it, so I'm obviously over the moon. Let's hope Arsenal continue it. Guys, we're going to round it off there. Tottenham fans, I know what you're thinking. What? You're not going to talk about Spurs? In one line, I think they got the late.
Too chaotic to analyse.
It's just mad.
We don't know what you did.
He clearly rotated a lot. So I can't really read too much into that. They've got some players missing. They got a late winner against Sporting in the week that was chalked out, and they've gone and got another one. So really, it's not about tactics.
But we said it before with them as well. Yeah. I think the intensity in the first half for them was definitely way too low. Yeah. It took them going down. I spoke to Abby as well. It took them a couple goals to really get to wake up. Yeah. But for me, when you see that midfield of Skip, Basuma and Højbjerg, and then you see Emerson Royale on the right, what do you really expect, sure. In terms of actual attacking impetus and really putting a stamp on the game, and even just someone to dictate tempo and get their foot on the ball and create and string the team together. If it's not Harry Kane, who's not the quickest, who's going to do that, and there's no one else to really do it. So they just lack a real imposing footballer in the middle of the park, I think, or someone a bit more creative. And the right wing back is horrendous. Let's get Spencer.
That's true. But for all we've said, they're third. And they got another win on the bounce. They came from 2-0 down, so fair play to Spurs. Yeah. Guys, we're going to leave it there. Big thank you to Matisse. I know that must have been hard, especially the Brighton bit, but I've no doubt my day's coming at some point because that's football. But obviously I'm delighted with Arsenal, and of course what is going on with Liverpool. That's what we want to know. Let us know. I ran out of breath there. Let us know in the comment section, Liverpool, what's going on? How does Klopp fix it? And what else you made of everything else, or maybe any other games that you want us to talk about going into next week. Big thanks for all supporting the show. We really appreciate it, and we'll catch you on the next one.